All right, welcome to the postgame pod. We wrap up the Ole Miss loss to South Carolina 77-74 on a last-minute buzzer beater in overtime because, of course, this is the postgame pod on the Locked On Ole Miss podcast.
You are Locked On Ole Miss, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, welcome to the postgame pod. I'm your host, Stephen Willis. Thank you for tuning in today. We've got some ads to read about, and we've got long half-court three-point buzzer beaters in overtime to win the game for the South Carolina Gamecocks, and we will talk about it. It was not a pretty basketball game by any stretch of the imagination. It was not something that Dr. James Naismith could have identified as a probable good point when he was inventing basketball. This was not the vision he had in his mind, but Ole Miss fought, Ole Miss battled. Ole Miss didn't even start Jarkel Joyner. Deshaun Ruffin, injured. Robert Allen, injured. There's injuries. This team is beat all to heck. I mean, there's no getting around it. But they really battled, and it was a game that they should have won, but like we've seen over and over and over again this season, big-time plays, you cannot count on a player to make a basket. There's no player that takes charge. Even Jarkel Joyner, when he's in the game, does not take charge. That end of double overtime or single overtime look that Ole Miss got where they just let the clock run out, heave a two and try and draw. Heave a three and try and draw the foul that was an air ball that was set up. As soon as they called it, they called timeout. 2 seconds was left on the clock. The rest was history. And South Carolina was able to do it. So before we get started, I do want to tell you about Built Bar. This is the time of year that I've pretty much given up on all my New Year's resolutions, but not this year. This year, I'm sticking to my resolution to eat right thanks to Built Bar. It almost feels like it's not really a resolution because I actually enjoy eating them. Have you tried Puffs? You haven't? If you haven't, you're missing out on one of Built Bar's best tasting bars. Puffs are the first protein-infused marshmallow. They're fluffy, they're marshmallowy, they're not just a protein bar, they're a treat, and they're covered in 100% real chocolate. So go to Built.com, scroll down to the macros chart, and you'll be blown away. High protein, low cal, high fiber, low carb. Compare that to a candy bar, which is usually around 240 calories, 30 grams of sugar, and dozens of net carbs. Mint brownie, coconut almond, and all new for this month, white chocolate cookies and cream. They're all delicious. They're all new flavors, and they're all coming out all the time. I think I said that too many times. I think they think the flavor might be good. They'll make it. It'll be delicious, and it'll be good for you. At Built Bar, they're all about the taste. They make it taste delicious first, then figure out how to make it healthy. And I don't know how they do it, but they pull it off every time. So here's the offer. Go to Built.com. Use promo code LOCKED15 and get 15% off your order. Use promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at Built.com. Also, just to let you know, football might be over for this season, but basketball is in full steam for both pro and college hoops. From all the latest odds, totals, player performance props, to where the next fired coach is going to land, BetOnline.net is the number one spot for all of your betting needs. BetOnline remains the best spot for all of your sports scores, podcasts, and news this season. And it's not just basketball. BetOnline.net is your source for hockey, boxing, and UFC odds, right to the Olympic coverage and information. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action. BetOnline, where the game starts. Now, it's not something I'm totally looking forward to. Matthew Murrell in the last 7 minutes of that game just basically disappeared. And to put it in respect, he had 18 points coming into that, 5 rebounds. He was having a pretty good game. You know, if you listen to our preview, we talked about Matt Murrell having to become the dude of this team. And that's absolutely the case. He had to become the dude. And he was looking like he might do that, but then he just disappeared. He wilted. I do not know if that was deferential treatment to Jarkel Joyner being on the court. I do not know that. But the most athletic player we have is Matthew Murrell. He's the tallest player out there at a swing guard at 6'3 or 6'4 that we have. He's the best shooter that we have. He's really athletic around the rim. Why not let him be the dude? Why defer to Jarkel Joyner? I like Jarkel Joyner. There's nothing against him at all. Whenever he is on, he is really on. Tonight he had 18 points. Him and Nasir Brooks and Matthew Murrell all had 18 points, including the layup at the end of regulation that forced overtime. Now, the minute and a half previous to that was pretty shambolic, and about 3 minutes in overtime was pretty shambolic. But they were able to stop the run, honestly. It took a last-minute heave to beat them. This wasn't a game where they got beat by the run. This wasn't a game that looked exactly like the other games. The problem with this is they're so offensively challenged without Deshaun Ruffin that South Carolina could just hang around. Ole Miss would get it out to 6, and they couldn't get it to 8. They couldn't get it to 10. They couldn't take that next step to put the game really out of reach. They just let South Carolina stick around. Stevenson hit 2 monster threes in the last couple of minutes for South Carolina that really propelled them to, you thought they were going to win the game in regulation before Jarkel Joyner hit that too. But this game goes down to probably the last minute and a half of overtime. And South Carolina chose in the middle to shoot threes randomly. I don't know why. They were finishing at will, just at will at the basket in overtime and towards the end of regulation. But they decided to shoot threes, and that allowed Ole Miss to not only stay in the game, but have the lead during portions of that. And Ole Miss just couldn't make shots. They couldn't play cohesive offense. They didn't have a point guard to get them a right play. It was an all-in-all bad situation for Ole Miss offensively. South Carolina hit a buzzer beater, and that was a heck of a shot. And honestly, that game shouldn't be there. Ole Miss should have won that game in regulation. They didn't, because they kind of wilted down the stretch. This team has a confidence problem. I think that's the problem. This team has a confidence problem. They don't think they can make the play. They sit there and dribble, and there's shot clock violations and 10-second violations and junior high basketball mistakes that they make. And I think it's a lack of confidence causing them. These are good players. They're here for a reason. But I think their confidence is just shot at this point. But one thing that is sure for the rest of the year, and I am going to harp on this every episode of the postgame pod from now until the end of the year, Matthew Murrell needs to become the dude. Matthew Murrell needs to become the dude. He needs to be the one that has the ball whenever the clock is at 10 seconds. He is our best player, and we finally need to treat him like our best player. Just period. But South Carolina, Eric Stevenson, 17. Devin Carter, was a good player. He went 16 and 11. Keyshawn Bryant, 16 and 8. We have a problem rebounding. We have a 7-foot guy that is athletic as all get out, and for some reason just struggles to rebound the ball. I don't understand it. I just don't understand it. And when you look at everything that's going on, I mean, it just stands that way. So South Carolina, 77-74 victory. South Carolina deserved to win. They made the winning play. I told in the Ravone chat when I was hosting it that the winning play in this game is yet to be made. And at the end of the game, it was the last shot of the game. As the buzzer expired, the winning play was made. So congratulations to South Carolina. They deserve to win. It was a turnover-filled game, and it was not a basketball postcard. It was a game that is rough. South Carolina fans want to get rid of Frank Martin. Ole Miss fans want to get rid of Kermit Davis. That was that type of game, even though it went to overtime. So, hope everybody had a good time. Hope everybody enjoys this video. This is one of those if you want it or not type videos. But this has been the post-game pod on the Locked On Ole Miss podcast. And thank you very much for tuning in. We'll see you tomorrow.